Finally got my shit done. That's a long haul. That was like 3 weeks straight of going ape shit so I could get out of here and head north. Finally got it done. And if you're curious where I am, that Devil's Den Lake is straight through there, right back there, about, I don't know, probably about 1,200 yards anyway. So I'm a little farther west. But anyway, I'm going to get up 4 in the morning tomorrow, and I'm going to head up in the mountains, see if I take one last stab at catching a wild steelhead before I go. Probably my last chance, because after I get back, then it's going to be on the ocean time, getting the boats cleaned up and ready to go. And tonight I got to get a dozen trail cameras all ready to go, get all the SD cards cleared out, get all my other gear ready to go, then go. But in the meantime, listen to this. Listen to these, I mean. So I got a few right off the top. People that emailed me right away are going to get lucky and get it read right away just because I grabbed them. And I got a few other ones I found way back from months beyond. Excuse me. I was going to open up and talk about some current events, but yeah, why bother? Let's get some voices heard. Let's get right into this, all right? Let's get some knowledge, share it, and help some people if we can. All right, the sun's gonna come and go. There's clouds, there's showers, there's hail, there's snow, and there's sun right now. Anyway, what do we got? This is emailed recently. I just kind of grabbed it off the top. No major reason why. Listen to this. What do we got? An Eskimo in Alabama. Puzzle pieces in 3 different encounters. Hello, Steve. Feel free to share my info. I really appreciate what you're doing for every one of us in the Club of No Return. My mom was a Yupik Eskimo. She grew up in the Nishnawak Bay area of Alaska. She told me some stories of what she called the hairy man experienced by her dad. Her family mostly lived off the land, so her dad did a lot of hunting. He was paced several times walking in the woods. One night, something was walking around his tent on 2 legs. He placed a hatchet at the door of the tent. The belief was that it would keep anything with bad intentions out. He did not feel the need to look outside his tent, but the next morning did see some footprints in hard, crusty snow. My grandmother grew up in a village that was so remote that many of the villagers had never seen a white man by 1930. When she was 10 or 11 years old in the late 20s, her and her friends saw 2 people walking, or so they thought. All the jackets worn at the time by the villagers were some type of animal skin, so she assumed that they were neighbors. She called out to them and said, "You're going the wrong way." The 2 beings kept walking and never turned around. When she got home, she told her mom, and her mom said, "It was a good thing they didn't turn around. Those were cone heads. They are not of this earth." Apparently, cone heads was the English translation for whatever they called the creatures. I never had a chance to live in Alaska, although I commercial fished up there for 3 years. I lived in Southern Oregon for 14 years, and I got pretty good at sneaking around the woods while hunting. I've been paced while walking at a distance of about 100 feet several times, but could never see anything. While deer hunting at the top of a mountain one afternoon, I smelled that smell, a combination of fecal matter and rotten meat. I was next to a small fir tree. The branches made the tree about 20 feet in diameter at the bottom, ground level, and so thick that you could not see through it. On the other side of the fir tree, I heard a grunt that sounded like a combination of a pig grunt and a human belch. That came from about 6 feet off the ground. I walked to the other side and found no sign or tracks of anything. In the late 1990s, my first actual sighting came during a one-day elk hunt up in the Cascades. I drove up as far as I could to the end of a logging road and started walking a few miles. I came across an interesting feature, a line of downed branches 30 feet wide and going off in each direction. On the other side of the branches was a forest like I've never seen. It had 0 ground cover and no downed branches anywhere, and was flat. It looked like a well-kept park. The trees were all spaced apart. In places you could see 300 to 400 feet. As I stepped out from behind a tree, I froze. At a distance of about 200 feet, I saw what I thought was a black bear digging with both arms in a rotten tree stump. After about 5 seconds, it jerked its head up and looked straight at me. Immediately, I got so spooked that all I could think of was retreat, which was unusual for me. After retreating about 50 feet, I thought, wait a minute, that bear didn't have any ears and also had shoulders. It had no snout, just a flat face and darker shadows where the eyes would be, and since I had a gun, I went back to try to catch another glimpse of it, but it was gone. I walked over to the stump that it was digging in and took a look for any tracks, but the forest floor was covered with leaf litter. I didn't see any. The stump was about 3.5 feet in diameter, which is about as wide as the shoulders of the creature. I was able to see the inside of the stump, which was dark, rotten wood that looked like dirt, but the edge of it was as high as my neck, and I am 5'10". When the creature jerked his head up and looked at me, the stump was just below chest high to it. It wasn't a giant, but to me, it did have the look of a younger teenage creature. I never felt any fear after the first initial shock, but I did feel like something was watching. I've now lived in South Alabama for the past 20 years, not far from where the peanut-eating Sabe was. I have a few things to add, similar to that, nothing spectacular, but interesting, but maybe at a later time. I sure appreciate your work with this channel, and thank you, Ken. Okay, Ken, appreciate your time, man, and just so you know, you get a chance to get your stuff read here, you get it all in one email, right? Because there's so many. It's so backed up. There's so many. It is absolutely ridiculous. I might even find another one from you for a year. You never know at the rate it goes, right? But thanks again for sending that in. I appreciate it. And many other people do, without a doubt. All right, here we go. Let's listen to this one. This is titled "To Adolescent Sasquatch." How are you, Steve? I hope the round table is doing great. My name is, you can give my name, Benjamin Malugan. Benjamin Malugan. I reside in Nashville, Tennessee, Antioch, which is South Nashville. And I have an encounter I would like to share that happened when I was 5 years old. This was 1981, 2 days before Christmas Eve. The place was Hickman County, Tennessee. It sits between Fairview and Centerville in Middle Tennessee. My great-grandmother and my uncle and most of my dad's side of the family lived there. I remember it like it was yesterday. When I was 5 years old, I was very aware of Bigfoot. That's what the county folk called him, / her. Uncle Paul had built a Baptist church about 2 miles down the road, so they were God-fearing people. I remember before the encounter walking up on my cousin Dwayne and Uncle Paul telling me to stay out of the woods, or Bigfoot will snatch me, which I paid no mind. But I overheard Paul saying that they're out and about almost every night. They're out and about almost every night. They're big animal lovers too. So my great-grandmother and Uncle Paul would leave bags of oranges out for dinner, and they would sit it on the trash can lid because they would come up and rummage through the trash. What it was they found out, Mama Sasquatch was pregnant, and it didn't matter if it's a turtle to a goldfish. If another female finds out another female's pregnant, it's like a nurturing. Well, that night, it's like a nurturing. Well, that night, after watching Christmas Special, me and my brother and my little cousin, took our baths. While my little brother and cousin were brushing their teeth, my great-grandmother called me in there and sat me down and told me we're going to sleep in the guest room. And if we hear anything or get scared, we can make a pallet in the living room or come out to her room and we can make a pallet on her floor. She was very adamant about it. I brushed it off, not paying no mind because it was playtime before bed and I had brung my Darth Vader head carrying case for all my little Star Wars figures. And my brother was responsible for all the Transformers, LOL. They were big and metal, so we put them in a pillowcase. God forbid you stomp your toe on one of them things. My brother got 5 stitches in his head for jumping on the bed, falling off onto the Optimus Prime. They don't make them like they used to. Now I believe they're plastic. So it's bedtime. It had to be maybe 11:30. I remember I was just laying in bed thinking about my cousin Dwayne. Messed with me about the Bigfoot. I was 5 years old, LOL. All of a sudden, I heard commotion out in the backyard. The guest room window faces the backyard, probably 15 feet away. There's a miniature barn with a wood shop and a small engine repair shop in it, and it had a barn light. Well, I got up to pick out the window. I got up to look out the window, probably. And when I looked out the window, there about 10 feet away from me was what I thought was little chimpanzees. Their body really looked nothing like them. Of their body really looked nothing like them. Just remember how they were playing. If you've ever seen chimpanzees horseplay, you know they stand up on both legs and they kind of waddle back and forth and throw their hands up and just fall into each other. That's what they were doing. No, I sat there for 10 minutes and watched them terrified. But I knew something was special, even at 5 years old. The mom or dad was getting the fruit that my uncle left out for them. My Aunt Wanda had a habit of throwing extra food away at that time because 3 months prior, the mom had not given birth yet. So there's a mother and a father and 2 twins. So I'm caught in amazement as I'm watching these little creatures play, and all of a sudden I hear a guttural growl. I don't know what it is now. It was mom or whoever telling them to knock it off and let's go. It was good up until I heard that, Steve, and if you've ever heard it, and I know a lot of people at the round table have, when you're 5 years old, I pissed myself. I crawled up in the bed and laid there shivering, terrified, until morning came. I got up, went to the bathroom, changed, and cleaned myself up. They were funny-looking things. They could not have been no taller than 3 feet, and they were twins, because they were the same size. And that's why my Aunt Wanda got into throwing extra food out, and had the whole neighborhood feeding this pregnant Sasquatch. Apparently, they never bothered anybody, and they would leave little twigs and weird-looking rocks on the trash can tops, and they just kept to themselves. My cousin Paul, the Baptist church, he was a preacher, still is, and he said he had never got a bad feeling from them at all. Even going out at night, taking the trash out, going to the shed at night, he said he never felt like he was in danger. I think the Sasquatch knew how good they had it because it was damn near a whole neighborhood. They didn't come up and look in the windows. They didn't take no dogs. They didn't take no chickens. I think they got into a couple people's gardens. To what they look like, they're about 3 feet tall, and it looked like they had a big furry whimsy own. Typos. Don't know what that is. Big furry whimsy on? I don't know. They were growling and rustling like you would see a bear cub do. But the downside to that encounter was going through life. I'm 45 now, and I don't let the people that you looked... I'm 45 now, and don't let the people that you looked up to, the people that you respect, laugh it off. Though I've never shared my encounter like that. It wasn't a big deal. I told my cousin Dwayne, I've told a few people, and my dad's side of the family, and just about every one of them had an encounter. But what's a shame is being so young, and people are telling you there's no such things as monsters. You lose faith in school, and I grew up knowing that the government are lying pieces of shit that need to be eradicated by any means necessary. My cousin Dwayne has passed away from the head injury that he got resisting arrest, but it's a county town, and I mean, that's what you do, all the cops. That's what you do. You know all the cops. Hell, you went to school with them. You dated some of them sisters and whatnot. So it's not like city cops, but dude hit him right too hard in the head with the lead nightstick and it screwed him up. It's been years since I've been down to Hickman County. Last time I went down there was 2004. I walked all over that place seeing if there's any signs, any twisted leaves, pulled up trees, anything. And it's too much urban development. What used to be 10 houses on a 10-mile road is now 5 subdivisions. I've been up since 3 a.m. this morning typing this on a mobile phone, LOL. I made sure and proofread it 2 times to make sure I put the commas and periods and crossed my T's and dotted my I's. I'm still trying to find out who turned in Dave's video. You, Dave Scott, and other Steve from National Park Mysteries go above and beyond. But doing that, Dave, with all he's been through, just pissing me off. Well, thanks for reading the story. I hope I sent it to the right email. We'll see if I feel like I took it enough. I feel like I took enough of your time, man. Thank you. If you're ever in Nashville, we have a caboose in our backyard and a 57 Illinois Golf that we're turning into a B&B. So if you're ever down here and need a place to stay, you can definitely get it for a couple of nights. Got a cast iron oven, plumbing, electricity, all the original everything. Even the old hand flares the caboose occupant would use. And again, thank you, Steve. I'm pretty sure say that for everybody, and thanks for your wife, because I'm pretty sure without your wife's approval, you wouldn't be able to do this. LOL. So behind a man, there's always a great lady, right? Yeah, I guess there is, isn't there? Thanks for the email, man. I hope I didn't butcher it up too much. I'm going to move into the timber somewhere. All I'm seeing is a very bright reflection of me on the front of this frickin' phone. It's bright. I hate filming in the sun. I prefer overcast. Especially reading off the phone, right? Ooh, that's wet. This'll work. All right, here we go. Now, get back to that other previous email. The whole community knew about it. We're familiar with those beings. I wonder how many of those people are listening to this channel or other channels. I wonder if they will be compelled to write into everybody here and share their experiences with everybody here and what they know and what they learned, huh? That'd be interesting. Real interesting. And I couldn't imagine becoming aware of being aware of this truth when you're 5 years old and then having to go through school with everybody, like you say. Never thought about that one before, that scenario. But thanks for sending that in, man. We appreciate that. Appreciate you big time, all right? All right. How do I stop these texts coming in, man? I got a couple bars here and I'm getting bombed. Airplane mode? I think I did that before and it didn't do anything. Cellular? I don't know. Now, let's hear this one. This is titled Surrounded. Bigfoot is an asshole. Hi, Steve. I've sent this a couple of times, but I don't know if you received it. I pretty much watch every video and I have for a long time. What happened to me was totally an oh crap, I am so screwed kind of experience. I do personally highly appreciate what you do and how you do it. Keep it up for everyone. You're the only outlet many, including I, would use to tell these horrid experiences. At least mine was an F-fest. Maybe these fellows down south are a little different. It's a little long. It's okay, man. We got you. Let her rip. First off, I love your home area. Fantastic views. Not far at all to find peace of mind. Second, my condolences you lost your buddy, Mr. M. Well, to get into it and put some background for the experience. It was November 1st, 1986. This is the first Saturday of November and opening a gun season for white-tailed deer in East Texas. There was a new moon, pitch black morning. It was very foggy, heavy, thick, and mid-treetop level. You couldn't see your hand in front of your eyes without a light, dark. The encounter was from approximately 3:30 a.m. until first light, 7 a.m.-ish. It was very dry. The leaf litter was 4 to 7 inches in most places. Throughout this event, there was complete/utter dead silence in the woods. No wind or air movement, no bird or small animal noises, not even crickets. Note, this was before I knew what a Bigfoot/Sabe/wood booger might even be. This is the first day of deer season. My family lived for it. Grandfather, dad, uncles, and I. I was taught gun safety, hunting, tracking, and fishing from the time I was a small child on. By my entire male family, grandfather, father, and uncles. They taught me how to track, how to look for sign, what it meant, how to move in sync with the forest and all that existed in the woods, how to find a way in and back from anywhere, and how to survive. God, I loved it. By the time of this encounter, I graduated from school and had started college locally. Back then, we started hunting young and had freedom. no child has today to roam the woods. I was used to being in the forest alone and spent most of all my free days in them. Uncounted miles hunting and tracking deer, hogs, and squirrels, or just sitting under an ancient oak, soaking everything in. I loved every minute of that time and the deep woods of the river and the creek bottoms, and I still do and I always will. This event did not stop me from going into the woods or mountains. It just made me painfully aware that I was not as good in the woods as I thought I was. I was not the biggest predator, nor the best hunter, but it did not stop me from loving the woods or going in them to hunt or fish, even after this encounter. I took a very nice 9-point from the same location the next morning. I think they cost me a huge buck that first morning. He was an 8-pointer, but his mass and width were awesome, at least 24 inside, and the beams looked like a Louisville Slugger. I'd seen it before the season in the area. When he got about 50 yards from my stand, he smelt something that put him on super high alert. There wasn't any wind, so it wasn't me. But he nosed around the ground and about the base of a large oak tree. His tail and head went up, and he looked all around. Then he turned back the way he came and hauled. Whatever he smelled was around the bottom of a massive oak, on the side facing away from my stand. Makes you go, He never looked in my direction, not more than a quick scan. You could rationalize that he smelt me, but that didn't add up. If he smelt a human, he would just started watching the area closely, trying to see me or nose me out, or would have eased out of the area. This morning I had the privilege of driving my grandfather and my dad to the heads of the trails they used to go to their stands in the Hardwood Creek bottom, which was at the end of a old rough dirt logging roads, far from any towns or cities. This is our hunting lease. There was thousands of acres of private lease, Hardwood Creek and river bottoms that went for miles in all directions, tying into other private lands along the East Texas River. Beautiful bottomlands, lots of untamed woods in its day, lots of places in there that folks still just don't go often or ever. Some of those places always felt much darker and had a stillness, a pressure that you could feel wasn't quite right, and you were not so welcome there. I think we've all felt that. Well, not all of us, but most of us here have felt that. Anyway, this is the first day of deer season, so we're early. I dropped them off about 3 a.m. My family believed in being very early, so the woods had time to settle back down before light. I drove the Jeep Willys back out of the dirt road and onto another dirt road that I followed several miles down to an old crossroads where I would park. I then would make my way through a briar wall 40 feet thick and 8 feet high that we had cut a path through just wide enough to drive the Jeep through at need, through the briars, still crisscrossed through the tunnel like opening, and made transit through it a jeopardy. Painful thing if one wasn't careful. Note, this accessed the bottoms along the same creek that both my father and grandfather had stands on, only a mile or so as the crow flies from mine. At this point, all seemed normal. I made my way through the cut opening in the briars and entered the downhill trail that would meander, turning to the right a bit, and then on through the bottomland to my stand on the creek. Giant hardwoods and on occasional large pine on both sides, and not much undergrowth. Old bottomland forest. I made my way down the path about 35 to 40 yards past where the path turned to the right, when I heard the first intake / exhale / cough / roar / scream behind me, where I'd just come through the hole in the briar thicket. Yes, between me and the only exit for hundreds of yards, either direction. The first roar / scream was very confusing to me. I knew all the sounds that anything in the woods could make. I thought it could have been a large hog or a massive buck blowing at me. Maybe I just hadn't heard it clearly. I know I had never heard the sound before. I turned and shined my weak flashlight, being the youngest, I of course got the shittiest light, back behind me to check for eye shine, etc. I waited for a minute to listen. Nothing. I began moving on down the game trail quietly. After perhaps 15 slow steps, there was a second roar sound. It was closer, and still behind me on the trail. I turned again, flashlight panning, looking for eye shine, body movement. There was nothing, no sound. I was still not terribly worried at this point. After all, I was the armed apex predator here. I waited, listening for a few minutes. Nothing. I once again began moving down the trail, about another 20 steps, and again, behind me, the roar even closer. Now I began to worry. I'd never heard a sound like it before, and it was large, very large. I thought maybe a rabid cougar or a bear was on my trail. One whose mental faculties had been impaired, so it didn't sound like normal. How could I not see the eye shine or the movement? I waited. Minutes again passed as I listened, facing back the way I'd come. I turned the light off. It was useless anyway. I just tuned into listening, feeling for anything, any noise at all, to key me in as to where it was at or what it was doing. The next roar/scream was close, and now it was from on down the path in the direction I was going. Behind me again now that I was facing where I came in. Not far away, but not as close as the one that had been behind me just before. God, that would suck ass. Yes, sir, now I'm getting a bit concerned. There were at least two of these things, and they didn't sound like any natural predator in the forest. I stayed still, listening for movement, air movement, hell, anything at all. Quite a few minutes passed this time. They were silent for a while. I finally decided to hit the light and swing it around me to look in all directions quickly. Yes, nada. I finally decided to keep on going to my stand. I turned back down the trail towards my stand and moved on. The next roar/scream was now on my right side of the path. Once again, pretty close. By this, I mean it would have rattled plates on a shelf close. I was now getting beyond worried. I was a little scared. Yeah, 3 of these bastards so far. I kneeled again, light off, listening, and listening. They roared and screamed at me close from all 3 sides. Oh my God. The way I'd come from, the way I was going, and now on my right. I just stayed there kneeling in the dark, trigger on my old rusty 30-30, cocked back and bowie knife out in the left hand, also holding the stock. Then, for a bit, they slowed down. Not as quickly were the roars coming from the 3 sides. Then, F me. They dropped the coup de grace with another roar, now on my left. Close. Hell, they were all close. I was boxed in. The roars sounded like I was sticking my head in a lion's mouth while it was roaring. That deep and that loud. Vibrations through the body. I stayed in position. To say I was on point is an understatement. That body was a little juiced up by this time. I thought after a while surely the light would hit something. They were too close. Not too quickly, I turned on the flashlight, whipped it all around, and shit, nothing. No movement, no bodies, no eye shine. I turned it back off. Now, the cadence of roars/screams pick up from each direction in quick succession. I was most definitely scared shitless at this point. There are 4 large unknown things/entities/monsters, at least, surrounding me. I was so effed. I stayed in a one-knee kneel-down position, rifle ready, knife ready. I remained as silent as them. I stayed completely still, barely breathing, just listening. I waited for 20 to 30 minutes kneeling. The cough/roars continued. They were right on top of me. I think under 30 feet. That is what it sounded like. But no sound or movement, never a crunch or a rustle. The fear was insanely powerful, but what do? I reasoned that running was out, going back was out, as I was closer to my stand now than back to the vehicle. Quitting was not an option. No such thing as a timeout in that situation, though I could have really used one. I finally spoke out to them. Y'all just leave me alone. Well, hell no, they continued with the cough/roars on all sides. I hit a funny place after that. I was scared and really scared. Hell, I was terrified. And then I wasn't. A switch flipped on. I went from scared to just plain fighting mad pissed off. They were effing with me, straight up. They could have had me already, so they were just pulling my chain for fun. I think most humans will hit this mental spot in horrible, hopeless situations. Panic and terror just morph in us to something else. In this case, to my own rage. If they can smell fear, I think they can, then they got a good whiff of something else mixed in too. Massive, aggressively hostile anger. Then I decided to start a conversation from my side. I just stood up and got loud back at them, almost yelling, pissed off. I told them to F off. I was going onto my stand and I was hunting today to either come and get me or get the F out of the way. I headed onto my stand at a normal walk, not sneaking or quiet. I told them if one of them cracked a leaf or a twig, shit was going to hit the fan, as I was going to come for them. And though they might get me, they weren't going to walk away healthy. Whoever, whatever they may be, they were going to bleed. I spent many hours sharpening that Bowie knife. You could shave with it. They listened, I'm sure, because the whole time I was venting on them, they didn't make a sound. And they did, at least the one between me and the stand got out of the way. This might come across like I'm trying to say I was a badass or something. I'm not. That I was as scared, pissed off, and mad as I've ever been, and I was armed and trigger happy as hell. That makes for a very, very dangerous person. You know what, I'll add to it. I think probably 100% of all of us have that trigger. I mean, fear is anger, right? I mean, how many times have you scared the shit out of somebody intentionally, and you scare them, and all of a sudden they get pissed. They instantly get angry, right? Anger and fear goes hand in hand. It's a survival thing, for sure. I kept telling them along the way, make some noise, any noise. Crack a twig or a leaf, you son of bitches. They just paced me as I moved on down the trail, continually harassed by roars. Every few feet from a different direction, left, right, and behind. I stopped trying to see them, or pinpoint exactly where they were. They were damn close, and that was enough. Finally made it to my stand. I had a moment of fear that they would try me when I went up the ladder. I went up quickly and almost backwards. Stupid, yes, but my rifle still had one in the chamber and the trigger cocked. I wasn't as worried about shooting myself as having to take the time to cock it at need. I got inside without an issue and settled. I got quiet again, barely breathing, just listening. They kept me surrounded in the stand until daylight. They kept at the roar/screams until first light, then they got quiet. I told them to come on out now, that I could see a little. Nope. It got light enough to see, and they ghosted. But throughout this whole ordeal, they never made any movement sounds, not a thing. And that was the most unnerving. Huge roar, no movement sound. To describe the roaring sound, it was like a fast, deep intake of air in massive bellows with a grinding hoarse sound, then the exhale body roar/cough/scream. It had come from a very, very large chest cavity. It was deeper than the African lion roar vocals. There's nothing similar in any wildlife I've ever heard in nature or on recordings. The sound did not freeze me in place, just shook me. It vibrated through my chest and scared me, of course. I'm pretty sure after all the years of thinking about it in detail, which is as fresh in my mind as that morning, I'm confident they were messing with me for fun, kinda. I think I blundered into a trap they had set up for prey coming through that hole we had through the briars. All the game coming from the other side of the road had to go through it for several hundred yards in either direction to get a passable route into that creek bottom. I told my dad and grandfather of the occurrence in detail, and they were positive I was tracked by a cougar or even two. They had no reference for something like I described, so they laughed and assumed I was just wrong and it couldn't have been as bad as I made out. Me? Nope. Nothing. Moves in that kind of leaf litter without noise. At least that is what I thought at the time. Now, I know nothing normal does anyway. Nothing should be able to move in that dry, desiccated leaf litter without noise. A cricket jumped during this event, and it was easily heard moving about in the dry leaves, though it almost got blasted. I was a little jumpy back by that time, no doubt. By the way, that day I did leave the stand before it was fully dark out. I made sure I could see to shoot on the way out. I did go back the next morning. I was a little loud heading in, and nothing happened that I was aware of. I didn't feel the same. It was not dead silent. I got a nice 9-point buck that day. All right on. Funny addition to add to this story, it's not over. Yup, the next Saturday there was payback. Some justice for me, if you will. All right. Let's hear it. November 15th, 1986, Saturday, from dusk till an hour after dark. Same exact thing happened to my grandfather at his hunting stand. At dark, just as he was going to set down and head out to the pickup location, Grandpa said, just as he got to the bottom of the ladder coming down from the stand, one roared at him from pretty close. He said he quickly went back up into the stand, and they surrounded his stand. Multiple sides, same deep intake / exhale, cough, roar, scream. My grandfather had hunted those woods for 55 plus years, night and day. He had never experienced anything even closely familiar. He had been stalked by and chased by cougars, and there were even some bear issues back in his earlier days. He was a minister, and not given in to believe in anything that wasn't implicity in the Bible. But his description was that something god-awful was there in the woods that evening. My father and I had waited till an hour after dark when we went in to get him from his stand or look for him. This was abnormal. He was usually out within 30 minutes of no more shooting light. We drove the Jeep through the creek bottoms all the way to the base of his stand. After we got to the ladder, I got out to yell at him, and he said, "Hey," and scurried down the ladder and into the Jeep. I hopped in the back since Dad was driving. All Grandpa said was, "Let's go." He didn't say why he was still sitting in the stand that long after dark. Not a word or explanation from him. He was quiet. When we had been on the road for a bit and finally got back out to a real county road, he turned to look at me in the back and simply said, "I'm sorry, son. Whatever those things were around you last weekend were around me tonight, right at dark and after. They kept roaring at me from all sides. And it's not anything I know. They were just god-awful." That was it. He didn't want to talk about it after that, though he also kept right on hunting too. That apology sealed the deal. I wasn't crazy. It was the first and only time in my life I heard my grandfather apologize for something. He meant what he said, or did. His word was a binding contract, and that was it. It meant everything to me. That's good. It's a good ending. I did not then, nor now, let anything, big hairy sons of bitches, keep me from what I love, the great outdoors. Though my second run-in with one was not even as pleasant as this was. Since I wrote a book on this one, I'll share the story another time. Well, Steve, that's my first experience. I hope it helps someone else to also get their experience off their chest. Clean this up if you want, skip some, share if you like. I'm not an author, not very good at putting this into words. We'll appreciate what you're doing. God bless. You can use my name. It's all true. I would take any lie detector test there is about it. It's just what happened. It's like a movie in my mind. A very, very clear, unpleasant memory. Steve McClendon. Right on. Thanks, Steve. I hope I didn't butcher it too much. I'm not too smooth this evening. I don't know why. It's because I'm tired. It's because I'm in unfamiliar zone and I'm listening across the swamp. I don't know why, but I'm part of my head's drawn to that side of the swamp this whole time. That's a shitty deal, man. I don't know how they do it. Well, there's a whole pile of shit we don't know how they do it, right? The roar / screams that vibrate your body. Terror. Almost, as I'm reading these and knowing where I am and what's going on right here recently, it's like you almost half expect a roar to happen right now. I'd probably jump 6 feet in the air. But anyway. See what else we got here. Thanks again for sending that in, man. And make sure you send your other one too, all right? I want to hear it. I want to hear it all myself. Oh, this one's way too long, I think. Man, I got stuff I got to do, and I'm tired, but I can't not do this. It's like I just can't not do this. What do we have? This is titled, I'll keep this short. All right, let's have a go. Kansas, I'll keep this short. I recently heard about someone else talking about Milford's old man. I wanted to share my story about him from the 90s. Excuse me. My family and I would spend weeks at Milford camping and fishing the summer away, rarely going into town and just being in nature, being young. I didn't have the patience to sit for hours of fishing, but I could sit quietly for hours and spy on animals. Sitting in a field of 3-foot-tall grass, watching a group of deer eating just a few feet away from me until they moved away. I found that if I didn't have any intentions and control my emotions, the animals never knew just how close they were to me. and I took in the wonder of nature. Walking back to camp on a trail road, I felt as if something grabbed me and stopped me from moving without touching me. I was terrified, screaming and panicking in my mind, as that was all I could do. I heard something say, "Stop, little one, wait." I was instantly calmed and emptied my mind and waited. The longest black rope I had ever seen in my life slithering right over my bare foot. The snake spanned the entire width of the dirt road from one side to the other, and as thick as a Coke can. It was headed towards the lake. Once I was no longer in danger, I could move again. I looked up the hill, and I saw two dim blue eyes behind thick bushes and a tree. I thanked him with my thoughts and called him a friend, and he replied, "Friend," as he walked away without making a sound. Everyone was so focused on the snake, going so far as to measure the width of the dirt trail road, which is over 5 feet, that they wouldn't even listen to who had saved me from the biggest water moccasin I'd ever seen. I was called a liar for the rest of the summer about the snake, teased relentlessly by all the adults about my active imagination. I returned recently to find that the military has now taken over 90% of Milford Lake and banned access to my childhood's fishing and camping areas, though boating is still safe for now. I do wonder what became of the old man who saved a little girl from a horrible death. You can use my name, Donna Marie, as this is my truth. Thank you for your channel and all that you do. Donna, that's one hell of a story. And you're not the first person to have shared about being helped out or saved from imminent danger or an attack from a wild animal. It's fucking nuts. What time is it? I think it's like 6:30 or something. Pretty peaceful around here, isn't it? It's pretty quiet. Lots of logging's going on around here. I don't know why this particular area would have been a favorite spot for these beings, because there's nothing really spectacular or special about this zone, and I'm not seeing hardly any game sign either. And there's no river through here full of fish. The river's over by my place. I wonder why this was such a preferred zone. I haven't hiked around this timber much at all yet. I don't really have the urge to. Not that it makes me scared to. It's just it's kind of blah around here to me. There's no big rocky outcrops, hilltops. There's nothing to hike to get to a view. It's just rolling, moss-covered bluffs and timber. Wow. You know, the swamp's dead quiet back there behind me. But anyway, I'll get one more up before I go. Tell you what, I'm done. Something's fell off this whole time this evening. I don't know what's up, but I'm not reading smooth. I can't focus. My attention's being yanked to my left. Yeah. I gotta get home. I gotta get some good sleep. I'm gonna get up at 4:30 in the morning. Go see if I can get it. It'll be my last stab at catching a wild steelhead this year. Then I'll come home, share with you guys what I do tomorrow. And then I will pack the truck and head north. And that's gonna be an adventure. Of course, I'm gonna videotape the whole thing and share along the whole way. Make it back in one piece and show you guys what I saw, what I did. But hopefully I'll be sharing emails and voices along the whole way anyway. So yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna pack it in, and I will we'll see you guys tomorrow. And please don't take screenshots of this and email me with red circles saying there's 50 Sasquatches behind me. All right, I just don't pay attention to that shit. Talk to you guys later.